Hello, welcome everybody to another episode of the Founders Forum. This is episode 30, and in this episode we'll be discussing who to trust in the upcoming elections. So, yeah, let's get right into it. So basically, I guess politicians on both sides have shown us that you know they're hard to be trusted. You can't really trust politicians anymore, and obviously this is nothing new. It's a known thing. But, when you look at both sides, it's just so hard to pick. And listen, I consider myself a Republican, okay? I'm not like a conservative or not like far right, but conservative, right in the middle. Not right in the middle, but you get the point. Um I just for other people, I guess, it's just hard to pick a side because, with like when you think of Republicans, right, you immediately think of Trump because, the ones who aren't loyal to Trump or don't praise him or do what he wants, you know, he said they're like looked down on, I guess, on the Republican side. But then, it just I don't know. When people think of Republicans, their mind thinks they have to be MAGA, and it's just not true because I mean, listen, I support Trump. Not everything he does, like not this war with Iran, and I think he could be delivering more to his base instead of worrying about trying to get the Democrat votes. But I am a Trump supporter, I guess. Yeah. Anyway, but it's just hard to trust both sides because when you look at the Democratic side, the way I see it is they're trying to like embarrass our country. Make like not use our potential for what it could be. And I know this whole thing with Trump is, he's not really like he has a good idea in mind, but he's not really, he's embarrassing himself on the world stage, some might say. Because listen, at the end of the day, he is a good president. Maybe he's not a really good person, and at the same time, he's also 80. This spring he's turning 80 years old. So, um, you kind of have to take a step back and look. But yeah. So anyway, it's just hard to trust both sides because on the left they don't really like they're just worried about things that aren't important, like worrying about genders. Like there's only two genders, okay? It doesn't really matter. We shouldn't be catering to the people who, aren't maybe not they're not just there. Uh but yeah, it's just they're worried about unimportant things and things that they are letting happening, which are, topics of discussion. For example, immigration. What are the reasons for letting illegal immigrants in the country? Listen, because another thing people have to get straight is Republicans aren't against immigration; they're against illegal immigration. Okay, now we should put Americans first by letting them have the jobs, then the immigrants, the guests, right? I mean, they're not guests anymore because if you come here legally, right? But we should give jobs to our American people because Americans, it's our country. Uh, but yeah, so they're not focused on the right things, and the things they're just not doing a good job with. You immediately think they have to be everything gay and lesbian and LGBT. Let's get through. And illegal immigrants are just let in, not taken seriously. 10 million people in 4 years. I mean, that's a lot of people. That means basically they added, it was 340 million, right, or something like that. And now it's probably 350 to 355 million people. So, uh, but yeah, they're just like I know I'm going to say this a lot, but they're just not putting, important topics first. They're not putting American people first. Worried about immigrants and they're worried about being nice, but they don't realize that sometimes you can't be the nice guy. You have to, put people in their place. You have to say no to things, right? Maybe there aren't two genders because, maybe there are only two genders. You have to, say that to the people who think there's 72 genders because, it's just I think they just want to make our country like a joke, that We aren't this, we're the good guys, and we're not the big, powerful bad guy. But at the end of the day, we're a superpower. We are the superpower. We're right up there with. I mean, listen, China's not far behind, but still, we're clearly the superpower. We're the world police. But they're worried about just the wrong stuff. But Republicans have shown us that you know, they can't really deliver to their base in a way. At least with the Trump administration. I'm not talking about the other ones, but and that's the thing though. It's like I've said this before many times. There's like a pattern with who gets elected. It's usually Democrats for a long time, then a Republican, and then they don't want the Republican anymore because he's too extreme, and then just Democrats, right? And then that's how it was. After Bush, it was Democrats, right? And then Trump gets elected, then Democrat, and then Trump again, which is that's a big turn of events right there, a plot twist. But anyway, so the point of this is that you don't know who to trust anymore. If one side's doing one thing, maybe with the Epstein files, right? You don't really trust Trump because he's involved with all that stuff and all of his scandals, and maybe you don't like his business side. But then you look at the Democrats; they're letting illegal aliens into the country who are killing people, right? So it's like you can't really compare them because one side's dealing with one problem, you have another side that's dealing with another problem, right? So you keep going back and forth, but you can't pick a side. Um, and yeah, and no one's loyal on their like base either. The Marjorie Taylor Greene, she flipped, and many other Republicans too, like the smaller people who are less known. And yeah, and I'm not just talking about presidential elections, like other stuff, in terms of I guess like the midterms, right? Who do we vote for that? I think you know it's hard to know, but I'm pretty sure it's gonna be the Democrats because the way it's looking right now is people start to kind of forget that the Democrats like what they're doing because Trump's been so extreme and stuff like that. I mean, literally every day, I just got a notification. More than 3,500 troops just landed in a base near Iran. So I explained that in my last video, so you can go watch that if you're interested. Um, but yeah, I just you can't really with the midterms, like I was saying. Um, you know, I just know the Republicans are going to get, it's the blue wave. The blue wave is coming. And it's a tsunami, and they're going to wipe us out. That's why Trump's there. Like, he's doing everything now, trying to get just everything done. Because once 2027 comes, we're not going to be able to do anything, he's stopping, mass deportations because it's unpopular on the other side. But like I said in my last video, we shouldn't be worried about that. We're not going to get their vote either way because they hate Trump. So we should just worry about delivering for our base because guess what? In a year from now, we're not going to have a choice. We're literally not going to be able to do it anyway because they won't allow it to go through Congress. So, we can't do mass deportations. We can't do, the deals. Maybe we can't, like, obviously, maybe it's good with the Iran stuff, but it's just going to lead to so many shutdowns, which there's a shutdown right now. ICE right now is not being funded. That's why wait, no, ICE is still getting funded. The Department of Homeland Security isn't. That's why there's so many, lines at the airports and stuff like that, which is gonna get chaotic come spring break. So anyway, it's just we know that the Republicans are gonna get wiped out, so there's really no hope there. But once 2028 comes and it's time to pick a new president, who do we pick? On the Republican side, it's most likely going to be J.D. Vance or Marco Rubio. And at first, I decided, J.D. Vance, but at the end of the day, I think we all know that he's owned by Israel. I mean, his past is shady enough. So, if I had to pick someone, it's, and actually in this next election coming up, I get to vote. So, um, if he does get elected, I will be voting for Marco Rubio. Again, I don't know the choices. I don't know who else is running. I was looking at what's his name? The what's the guy in Florida? forgot his name. I don't even know. But I was looking at the Florida governor. But yeah, there's gonna be so many people. But it's gonna come down to JD Vance or Marco Rubio, and if it comes to that, I'm voting Marco Rubio. And on the Democrat side, it's probably gonna be Gavin Newsom, although they said he might be dropping out, or not deciding to go. But if I had to guess, Marco, no, 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 not Marco, no, the other this Democrat side, right? So I'd probably say Gavin Newsom, or I guess Kamala Harris. She hasn't said yet, but it'll probably come down to those two. And I don't know, honestly, because listen, the thing with Kamala Harris is that no one really paid attention to her. No one really cared. She wasn't really doing anything, and she literally said she was a very unpopular choice. No one really wanted her, right? They had to pick her because she was the vice president. So when Joe Biden dropped out because they knew he was going to get destroyed by Trump, which he was going to. We saw it, the polls, and so they tossed Kamala in, and she still lost. And that's she's you would think it's the best option for their side. A black woman, and she's a woman, so it's literally the perfect option for the Democrat side. But I don't know. People just don't have a lot of faith in her. I mean, she literally said she was going to do the same thing that Joe Biden did, or just not change anything. So I don't know. A lot of people are saying that they're going to vote Democrat or they're not going to vote at all. But you need to vote. You have to pick a side. And ultimately, I will most likely be choosing the Republican side because I trust them more than the Democrat side. But yeah, I mean, seriously, when I know it depends on what side you look at, but on the Republican side, the way we see it is that they're not putting Americans first. They're not we're not in their best interest, and they're just not doing important things. And the things they are doing, they just go to pieces, right? Because guess what? If you're looking at it right now, with the state of New York, right? It's Kathy Hochul. She's most likely going to get reelected again come November, and it's not going to be good because we found out that she took away $20 million from the school districts on Long Island because she doesn't like Long Islanders. Because guess what? Long Island people and people in upstate New York, they all vote red. But once you add that all up, it still doesn't it doesn't take over the people from the city because there's 8 million people living in the city. So it doesn't matter if we all vote red because it still won't change thanks to the city people, right? And so she wants, illegal immigrants here because they'll vote for her if she lets them in, right? She's taking money away from schools, and, something that actually affects me. It's not a big deal, but, the phone ban. There's no phones in schools anymore. So, actually, speaking of which, I actually sent out a petition for that on change.org. So if you can go sign that petition, it's only 51 people right now. No, 48 people. But if many people see this, then who knows, right? But yeah. And then if you look at New York City with Zora Makdani, right? New York City, it's not looking good right now. I have to say, Muslims are crowding the streets and blocking traffic and spitting on women, pushing them down the stairs, and yeah. And listen, I don't care if you're practicing your religion here or not, okay? America's a place where you can do, you don't have to be a Christian here, right? But when you're in the middle of the street and, the Muslim call to prayer is blasting everywhere and it's disrupting us, because, listen, I also explained this before, but if you're a U.S. veteran, right, and you're living in New York City, and this also happened in Detroit, but we'll focus on New York City here. So if you're a veteran, right, who fought in Iran or Iraq or a Muslim country, right, and then you come back home and you have to hear the Muslim call to prayer, which doesn't, it doesn't make you think that you're safe or whatever. It makes you think danger because, that's what happened in those other countries. So, and when they're in the streets flooding, just blocking traffic, in Times Square, it's going to cause a problem. So, and just the other day, like literally a couple days ago, I saw a news story of, a illegal immigrant who got deported 4 other times, but he came back and he pushed a I think an 80 some I don't know how old he was. I think 83, an 83-year-old veteran. He pushed him right in front of the train and he died. So yeah, and then it just really doesn't make sense. Listen, I don't care about Muslims in America, right? Like they can do whatever they want, but the fact that we elected one for New York State, I know, Manhattan, New York City governor, right, or mayor. Sorry, I'm getting like it's mixing together. New York City mayor, right? What do you think the people about 9/11 have to feel about this, right? You have like they always say never forget, but clearly we forgot, right? So I don't know. It just doesn't feel right when you see this in New York. But and listen, if they're actually doing good for New York, then it wouldn't matter. I just let them do their thing. I guess we'll deal with them in the streets. But when you have them spitting on women because they don't like that they show themselves, they're not wrapped in blankets, and pushing them down the stairs because we've seen that, especially in Detroit. But like I said, we're focusing on New York here. Um, and then you have, Zoran Magdani. Like I posted a whole thing on Instagram about how it doesn't work. He's taxing all the billionaires, right? But then guess what? They're all gonna go away to Florida, and then who are you gonna tax anymore, right? Because they're all gone now. So you got to tax the, middle class, and they're not gonna like that. Because yeah, just listen. Socialism only works when you have other people's money. When you once you run out, because you will, it does not gonna work anymore. Because he wants everything to be free, but it just doesn't work like that. It can't be like that. Free everything, everything free, but that hasn't even happened yet. Um, and New York City is just it's trash. There's literally trash piling up on the city streets, and everything's just a mess. Listen, to sum it all up, it just doesn't look like an American city. It looks like you're living in a third world city. And literally less than a month ago, I took a drive through New York, and yeah, it looked pretty bad. But again, the Democrats are going to tell you this. If it actually is bad, they don't want it looking bad on their side. So it's just a bad situation. And unfortunately, we knew he was going to get elected because why would the city people vote for anybody else but a Democrat, right? But yeah, it's just not a good situation, and it's not looking good for the future. Because guess what? Who do you think they're going to reelect, right? Zoran Mamdani. But with a broader view, right? It's just a mess. Anyway, to sum it all up, you just don't know who to trust anymore, right? It's just a mess. But anyway, my recommendation is just the Republicans need to deliver to their own base. Don't worry about the other side. We're not going to get their vote anyway. So just deliver to your base, actually do some good, and we should be fine. But anyway, so that's pretty much it for today's video. Thank you for watching, and there might or might not be another one going up, but just, stay aware for that. But anyway, so thanks for watching today's video, and I'll see you in the next one.